Hello everyone and welcome to this joint event between UN Tourism and Accessible EU, and with the collaboration of Fundación, the European Network of Accessible Tourism, and Ilunion Accesibilidad. We have been working together with the UN Tourism since, I don't remember when, but around 20 years. We have done a lot of things together. For example, the recommendation of the General Assembly for the accessibility, or the standards on accessibility, the ISO on accessibility. So we have been done a lot of work together. This is the first event of the Accessible EU Center. This year we have to organize around 88 events. This is the third year of Accessible EU, but maybe some of you don't know what is Accessible EU Center. I would like to explain a little bit about our activity. The Accessible EU Resource Center is one of the flagship of the rights of persons with disabilities of the European Union. And we work in 4 pillars: in the built environment, transport, technology, and politics. And in this center is led by Fundación, and then there is a consortium of 5 members: the European Network for Accessible Tourism, the Johannes Kepler University of Linz, the UNE, our organization of standardization, the standardization body in Spain, and the European Association of Companies Providers Services for Persons with Disability, SPD. And we have 34 national experts distributed in the 27 countries. We have to contextualize the Accessible EU Center as a knowledge hub. We are collecting the most important publication, library references, good practices around Europe, and we are organizing different activities to increase the awareness, to develop the networking, to create or to connect the different stakeholders on the accessibility, and we organize workshop and training activities. I don't want to extend more in my presentation. I would like to pass the floor to Dilior Kakimov. He is the Director for Institutional Relations, Partnership, and Advocacy on the UN Tourism.
Dear colleagues, Your Excellencies, to say honestly, it is my first time to address this already traditional seminar on accessibility at FITUR. I wish to extend my gratitude to IFEMA for making this happen again. It's really important, as we know, and we observed during the COVID times. It is a real pleasure to intervene today on behalf of the UN Tourism Secretary General Zura Pololakashvili, and I'm thrilled to meet UN Tourism historical allies, the ONCE Foundation and the European Network for Accessible Tourism. To join so many public officials and industry leaders in accessible tourism, offline, online today, to see how an event is set up when we follow universal accessibility standards. Thanks to our leading partner today, Accessible EU, and our collaboration from Ilunion Accessibility. Dear colleagues, the International Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities emphasizes tourism, leisure, and free time as fundamental human rights. These activities are crucial for personal development and our overall well-being. They enable people with or without disabilities to fully participate in the life of the societies without any obstacles. Advocacy plays a key role in making accessibility a reality. It helps raise awareness about the needs and rights of people with disabilities. It also encourages national tourism administrations, destinations, and companies to prioritize accessibility for our communities and our visitors. Dear friends, I have the honor of being ambassador of my home country, Uzbekistan, for many years in Brussels, and I know how it's important, not only for the European Union, but for the rest of the world, to move this agenda forward. In that respect, I would love to reflect, so what does it take to become an accessibility ambassador? First of all, how we can leave this seminar and become better allies of millions of people with disabilities around the globe, wishing them to travel. How can we open our eyes and realize that sooner or later we will join the immense group of 1.3 billion people with disabilities globally? Let us take a moment to assess together the sheer size of accessible tourism market. Just think about 700 million of people with disabilities in Asia alone and the Pacific, or 100 million in the European Union. As much as 85 million in Latin America and the Caribbean, and another 42 million in the United States of America alone. Millions of lives and millions of opportunities for self-realization through travel and tourism, for improving business and entrepreneurial opportunities within our sector. UN Tourism has been promoting specific tools for 2 decades to ensure better accessibility within tourism destinations. The organization has formed solid partnerships, as we've seen today as well, to bring together diverse expertise and resources, helping to enhance travel experience for everyone. Just to make it short, ladies and gentlemen, today we have panelists such as the Minister of Tourism of Ecuador joining us soon, high-level representatives of leading UN tourism member states in the sphere of accessibility, Italy and Portugal, our affiliate members and strategic partners in UN tourism sustainability agenda such as IATA and the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, our European Commission colleagues, accessibility champions at destination level, Malaga and Berlin, members of the UN Tourism International Network of Sustainable Tourism Observatories, and finally leading our tour operators and transportation companies, connecting customers with specific access requirements with destination and service providers. Once again, in the end of my speech, I would like to thank all the participants at today's event. It's one of the key in my own perception events during this FITUR convention. So thank you so much for giving the floor. That's all the best.
Thank you very much, Dilio. And online we have the mother, the alma mater of the European Accessibility Act and the Accessible EU Resource Center, Inmaculada Placencia. She is a senior expert on disability and inclusion in the European Commission, and she is the representative of the European Union in the United Nations Committee for the rights of persons with disability. Inma.
Good morning, Jesus. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for your kind words of introduction. Let me start by thanking FITUR for hosting this important event from the perspective of the realizing the rights of persons with disabilities, the right to participate in society, the right to mobility, and the right to realize their own potential in and decide and enjoy also leisure and travel around. Thanks also to Jesus and Fundación 11 for leading on Accessible EU. As Jesus has said, Accessible EU is a resource center financed by the European Commission in order to support the implementation of in Europe of accessibility legislation and standards. It's about creating a community of practice, and I see that this community in tourism is really flourishing. And it is a very important area, because not only for the essence of it itself, but also from an accessibility point of view, is important and challenging, because it pulls together the three main areas in which accessibility is necessary: the built environment, transport, and ICT. More and more, the digital world plays a role in tourism, and accessibility needs to be put in place from the very beginning, while new digital developments are happening. The previous speaker has mentioned the CRPD, that in Article 30 have a specific reference to the recognition by state parties to enjoyment of monuments and national cultural importance, and the obligation of state parties to ensure that persons with disabilities have access to tourism venues, and that the services involved in the organization of tourism are accessible for persons with disabilities. Now, the strategy on the rights of persons with disability that is set by the European Union in order to implement the convention and ensure that persons with disabilities enjoy in full their rights in the Union also refers to tourism. And in fact, it indicates that persons with disabilities have the right, among other things, to access on equal basis with others to tourism. It contains a specific section indicating how that access to tourism can be improved. And it refers, of course, to accessibility in tourism, and how tourism is essential for the full participation in society, and how accessible tourism for persons with disabilities is key to support that participation and socioeconomic developments. I'm happy to see that in the event of today, both aspects are covered. The right for enjoyment of tourism by persons with disabilities, is accessibility, but also the economic potential that tourism has in general for society, and also for persons with disabilities, for example, in terms of employment. The strategy on the rights of persons with disabilities in the EU states also that the right that persons with disability has to enjoy access to monuments, sites, and national of cultural importance, and that recreation and tourism venues, and that there is a commitment to promote the development of accessible tourism, notably by cities via the European Capital of Smart Tourism. And also this promotion of accessible tourism is at the heart of the Access City Award, an award that we give every year to cities that do remarkable work on accessibility. This year is an important year for accessibility, for disability policies in the EU, for several reasons. First, in June this year, the European Accessibility Act, which is very relevant for accessible tourism, contains products and services that are essential to be able to enjoy accessible tourism, access to information to be accessible, transport to be accessible, e-commerce to be accessible. Well, this important act, this directive, will be applicable from June 28th of June this year. And from that date, services, products put in the market under the scope will have to be accessible. And I hope really it will have an important, a good impact on the accessibility of tourism. This year is also important because it is the third year of Accessible EU. We have seen it consolidating, and I've seen that now through all these events that Jesus mentioned, the support to develop accessibility is really showing its results. Also, this year, the Union is going to go to the UN for a review, and tourism is also in this. Accessible tourism is an issue to report on. Let me finish just by saying that we have a new commission. Now in January, we started with a new European Commission, and our commissioner is really committed to ensure the rights of persons with disabilities. We are working now on the second phase of our strategy, and I'm sure that as we did in the first part, accessible tourism and the right to enjoy tourism on equal basis with others will continue to be present. So thank you very much for your attention, and happy to continue to work together in this important area. Thank you. I pass back the floor to Jesus.
Thank you very much, Inma. And now we are going to continue with Igor Stefanovic. Let me say in Spanish, porque para Igor el español es su lenguaje en la intimidad, ¿no? Según me comentabas antes. Igor es una de las personas más comprometidas que he conocido en ONU Turismo, es nuestro cómplice, es nuestro aliado y lleva trabajando para promover la accesibilidad desde el principio. Por eso, enhorabuena y gracias por el trabajo que estás haciendo en ONU Turismo. Adelante, Igor.
Buenos días.
Salgo de frente, no te preocupes. Sí, Paco.
Me imagino que hoy han llegado todos asustados de tener FITUR en la semana más fría de Madrid, que normalmente por tradición es la semana cuando venimos aquí casi en traje de esquí. Y hoy no hace falta exagerar, tenemos un día mucho mejor, tenemos niebla, pero no es el día más frío del año. Entonces, en cuanto a esto, podemos estar tranquilos. Tenemos un gran avance en los últimos 20 años que estamos colaborando en turismo accesible, porque hoy hemos tenido apuntados 700 asistentes virtuales de 70 países. Aquí no somos muchos, igual somos 100, 110, pero hay gente de 60, 70 países escuchándonos. Y hace 15, 20 años, en los eventos de accesibilidad solamente estuvo sociedad civil y quizás algún funcionario de algún gobierno. Pero era muy difícil ver en las empresas o diferentes tipos de empresas y destinos turísticos. And now I switch to English. So in these last 15, 20 years, sorry, I didn't say hello before. In these last 15, 20 years, I was just making a calculation. We published around 20 different reports, publications, pieces of research, compendia of good practices. So our editorial work on promoting accessible tourism with the Fundación, now Accessible EU, and also ENAT, our friends from the European Network of Accessible Tourism, has been going on and on. During COVID, we saw there were too many barriers for people with disabilities, so we also tried to make some recommendations in that sense. We worked on the international standard, first ISO standard, that encompasses the whole value chain, that would give a response to so many players in the value chain. How can accessibility be improved, and how is it being done? And today we are also launching a very important publication in which also Italy collaborated, because in 2023 we had a huge conference in San Marino on accessible tourism. And today we are publishing the book with 25 good practices that were promoted in San Marino, and the case of Italy that was presented by Mr. Caramanna, who is also with us today, is also in this publication. So why accessible tourism is advancing? Because you see countries where accessibility in tourism is coupled up with social inclusion, economic inclusion, quality of life, people's well-being. When you have all these things combined in one kind of perfect puzzle, that's when accessible tourism works as well. I had a question yesterday, I won't say the country, it's from my region where I come from the Western Balkans. How can we make the companies understand that they need to invest in accessibility? And I was asking, do you think there is social acceptance of diversity of people? And they said, not really, because you don't see so many people in the streets that have different kinds of disabilities. And when I have guests in Madrid, they say, there are so many people with Down syndrome. There are so many old people with a stroller. There are so many kids with, I don't know, some TDAH kind of syndrome. And I said, no, it's not that in Spain we have more people that have a disability. It's that people enjoy their life. What I always say as an anecdote when I travel, you see ladies who are 85 going with their friends to the cinema, smoking their cigar and having a whiskey in the terrace at midnight in summer. That's life, because people enjoy their life in spite of their age and in spite of their abilities. And if we have social inclusion and social visibility done, accessible tourism is much easier, because it cannot be isolated from the rest of the society. So today we are going to